In 2007, a 20-year-old kid from Argentina named Lionel Messi, not yet the greatest of all time, just a rising star, sat in the Barcelona dressing room and gently bathed a 6-month-old baby in a little plastic tub for a charity photo. Nobody thought much of it, but that baby had a name: Lamine Yamal. And 19 years later, that same baby walked onto the biggest stage in sports and beat Lionel Messi in the final of the World Cup. It is, on the surface, the most beautiful fairy tale football has ever produced. But here is the strange part. At the very peak World Cup winner at 19, compared to Messi himself, the people closest to Lamine Yamal aren't celebrating. They're worried, not about his rivals, about him. Because his story isn't really a fairy tale at all. It's what happens when the entire weight of the planet lands on a teenager who came from nothing, and the ending of this one hasn't been written yet. That's exactly what makes it frightening. Before we go back to where it started, subscribe if you like the stories behind the headlines. To understand him, you have to start in a place most people have never heard of: Rocafonda, a small working-class neighborhood in the town of Mataró near Barcelona. It's often described with words like forgotten, isolated, stigmatized. His father had come from Morocco and worked as a building painter. His mother was from Equatorial Guinea, and she was just 16 years old when Lamine was born. This was not a family of privilege. This was a family scraping by, in a corner of Spain the rest of the country tended to ignore. Keep that place in mind, Rocafonda, because Lamine never let go of it. To this day, when he scores, he makes a shape with his fingers. 304. 304. The postal code of the neighborhood everyone else forgot. And this is where that famous photo comes in. Back in 2007, a local newspaper and UNICEF ran a charity raffle in Mataró, and Lamine's family won. The prize was a photo shoot with a young Barcelona player for a charity calendar. That player was Lionel Messi. And so a 20-year-old Messi ended up holding and bathing the 6-month-old Lamine Yamal. At the time, it was just a sweet, forgotten picture. But years later, when Lamine exploded onto the scene, that image resurfaced and stopped the football world cold. It looked like destiny itself, a literal passing of the torch, captured by accident, 16 years before anyone understood what it meant. Remember that photo? We're going to come back to it on the biggest night of his life. Because what Lamine did next belongs in a comic book. He tore through Barcelona's academy. He made his first team debut while he was still 15. He broke record after record, youngest this, youngest that, and by the time he was 16, 17, he wasn't a promising kid anymore. He was one of the best players in the world, full stop. The dribbling, the fearlessness, the impossible composure for someone his age. Spain built its national team around a teenager, and everywhere he went, one word followed him like a shadow: Messi, the new Messi, the heir. Imagine carrying that, the greatest name in the history of the sport, before you're even old enough to legally drink in America. And somehow, incredibly, he kept living up to it. Which brings us to the night everything came full circle. The 2026 World Cup final. Spain against Argentina. Lamine Yamal against Lionel Messi, in what the whole world understood might be Messi's very last World Cup match. The baby from the photo against the man who once held him in that little tub. And Spain won it. 1-0. The torch didn't just pass, it was taken. On the grandest stage there is, by a 19-year-old from Rocafonda. Think about the symmetry of that. 19 years earlier, Messi had cradled him for a charity calendar nobody remembered. Now, Lamine had lifted the trophy Messi had already conquered once, the one he perhaps hoped to raise one final time right in front of him. It should have been the perfect ending. Except this is where the fairy tale quietly turns into something else. Because here's the truth that the trophies hide. Lamine Yamal is 19 years old, and he is now, arguably, the most famous teenager on the planet. Tens of millions of followers. Sponsors, cameras, expectations, all of it dropped onto a kid who was a child in a forgotten neighborhood 5 minutes ago. And people who work in football have started saying it out loud. he doesn't seem to have enough people around him protecting him from all of this. The pressure that would crush a grown adult, a pressure many adults simply could not carry, is sitting on the shoulders of a teenager. And already, the story around him has begun to shift from what he does with a ball to the world building up around him. It's centered on his 18th birthday party, back in 2025. A lavish, over-the-top celebration, the kind money and sudden fame make possible overnight. But this one drew serious criticism. Reports said the entertainment had included people with dwarfism, a Spanish disability rights group publicly condemned it, and the country's Ministry of Social Rights asked for it to be examined for a possible violation of a law protecting people with disabilities. Nothing was proven, and no penalty was imposed, but the controversy exploded, and overnight, the people around him were under intense media pressure. 19 years old, a World Cup winner, and already the question in the air had shifted from what he does with a ball to whether anyone around him is willing to tell him no. So here is the real story of Lamine Yamal, the one behind the curtain of the fairy tale. Remember the photo? Remember Rocafonda, the 304 on his fingers? Everything that makes his story beautiful, the poverty he escaped, the impossible talent, beating the man who once bathed him, is also exactly what makes it dangerous. Because we have seen this before. A child handed the entire world before they've had a chance to grow up, and no guarantee that anyone is guarding the kid underneath the superstar. Right now, Lamine Yamal is on top of everything. But football is littered with prodigies who had it all at 19 and lost themselves before they turned 30. That's why the people who love him aren't celebrating the trophy. They're watching the boy. His story isn't a fairy tale, and it isn't a tragedy either, not yet. It's the most important unfinished story in sport, and which one it becomes depends on whether that kid from Rocafonda can hold on to himself, now that he's finally got the whole world. So what do you think? Does Lamine Yamal make it, or does the fame win? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe, because next time we go behind the curtain on another legend, the world only thinks it knows.